In this CAD clip, we're going to start to talk about levels. So we're kind of working our way through the basics and the fundamentals here. The first thing I should point out, of course, is if you go to the CAD Clips webpage and you go to the Revit CAD Clips page on our website here, and you go to the left and you search for the word level and then hit go, it's going to go through and it's going to find all kinds of great lessons on levels inside of here. Okay, lots in there. So if I just hit my back button here, as well, there's a series in here under architecture. It's back in 2008. I've mentioned it before. Datums, crop regions, and scope boxes. Fantastic lessons. So have a look on the web page. I'm going to start by just using the Revit structural template. So I'll pick on there, which is set up from our options as far as our template listing goes. So we're going to start with a blank project. Now, a blank project uses a template file, and in that template file it has some stuff that's set up. It has a west elevation, an east elevation, a north elevation, a south elevation. Okay, it's got a couple of floor plans and views set up inside of here. It's very flexible, and the only way you can see a level is from a section or an elevation. So if I go down to the south elevation, which is this guy, I can either double click on the little point on here if I zoom in, or I can pick on here. Either way, I'll get the same result. There is, by default, and we can add more levels in our project template file, but by default and this is a metric family and project, but there's a level 0 and a level 1 and level 2 at 0 and 3,000 meters. Okay, which is about 10 feet or so. So if you take a level and move it just by picking and dragging it, okay, if this press and drag is turned on, which is off screen here, it's just over a little bit. If your press and drag is on, you can press and drag, and of course this number is going to change. Now, what I'm doing here you shouldn't do once the project starts. Okay, you shouldn't move your levels around at all. In fact, you should take your levels and you should pin them using the pin option so they actually don't get moved. So I'm just going to take these guys. We're going to talk about all kinds of different things over a few lessons on levels. So think of levels as just a big flat sheet, okay? And it has an endpoint here, and it has an endpoint here. But when you look from the side, it also has endpoints. Okay, that's the south elevation. Let's go to say the east elevation. There's our level 1 again, looking from the other side, and it has a point here and it has a point there. Okay, so unfortunately when we go to a 3D view we don't see our levels, but if I was to turn on, say, show my work plane, you'll see that big kind of blue square. Okay, that is on my level 1. It doesn't really represent my level 1, but think of that as a level. When you look from here, when you pull these guys, that makes the level lines get longer, and when you pull these guys, it makes the level lines get longer when you look from this side. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm not actually changing the level, but it's the best way to kind of demonstrate what a level does. This is a reference plane. If I set my reference plane, right now it's set to be level 1. If I say no, set my reference plane at level 2, it'll jump up, and if I hit OK, I'll click out. Once again, this isn't stretching my levels, but it is showing me where that level is. Okay? So that's why when you look from your north and south and east and west elevations, you're seeing, see there's that reference plane clicking out. So this is the level line. Okay, if you move it, by default it's going to change these numbers. Okay, if you click on here and you pick this box, it turns the marker off, on, off, on. Okay, you can also hit this little squiggle and it breaks. Puts a little dog leg and you can grab these grips. You can kind of stretch them over like that, and as you stretch this you can kind of move it up and down. Okay, clicking out. Now you can see there is that hollow dot that's still there. If you pick this up, it'll go back and go pink and it'll snap back in there. Okay, you'll also notice it says the name of the level and the distance. You can also pick in here after you've selected it once and change this number to be a bigger number, and then pick out and it'll move it to that distance. Similarly here, If I pick on here, pick on my number, change it to be 0, click out, puts it back at 0, click out again. Okay, if you're ever stuck, escape, escape, or pick the modify button here, or sometimes just picking nothing on the screen will clear it. So you can grab this guy, you can break it or heal it back. Okay, when you go to drag this, okay, if it's been aligned, watch what happens when it gets lined with the other one. Bink, boom. It automatically puts a little lock on there. Click out. Which means that if you pick on here, it's going to move both of these guys because they're kind of aligned. If you take the lock off, once you pick one of the level lines, you can stretch it independently, and now it's just not going to be the same. For whatever reason, you may want your level lines to be offset. You'll discover that as you move along. Once again, as soon as it starts to line up, boom, they're like magnets. They align and they lock. If you don't want them to lock, you can unlock it. Then you can go back on here. It'll lock it again anyway. Unlock it, and then you can grab that guy and drag it. Again, bringing it back. We're going to talk about the 3D button a little bit later with regards to scope boxes, or I should say crop regions. So we'll talk about this one little guy later. So we can go to this end and do the same thing. Turn it on. Oops. Turn it on. Turn it on. And then so you can choose what side you want them on, or you can choose to have none of them on. It's up to you. Okay, that also shows up in a section. If you go to your level 1, okay, probably need something in here. Let's draw something. Let's go in and just let's go to level 2, and let's just draw a beam. So we'll draw a couple of beams. Looks like a 305 by 165. Okay. And we're in low detail. If we change this to fine detail, we'll see more. If we go back to our view tab and we draw a section, click, click, we can move our section line back and forth. When we double click on here and we open up our section, okay, if we make this box big enough, we should start to see some level lines. Oh, there they are. Now, interesting, they showed up over here.